dimethylmercury. Okay? It is classified, if you look at the MSDS sheets on it, it is a poisonous, it is flammable, and it is corrosive. And 25 years ago, KarenWetterhaha found out the terrible way of what it did. It looked like it wasn't in the lab when her accident occurred, but she was pipetting from a bottle, okay, to another container, and the bottle would be in a glove, a sleeve there. So you squeeze the sleeve and you unscrew the bottle cap, you put that to the side, and then you pipette your material you want, and then you transfer to something else. It looked like she did pipetting, and either 1 or 2 drops from the pipette landed on her hand. Now, she was wearing latex gloves, but the problem with this dimethylmercury is also corrosive, and it literally burned through the glove quickly. I mean, just like that. And, well, okay, you're going to get a little stain. Oh, no. At that time, 25 years ago, they didn't understand how toxic it was. That it not only went through the glove almost instantaneously, but it was absorbed through the skin. Now, she just took off the glove and washed her hands, not thinking of anything about it. Well, the stuff is running through your bloodstream. And it did what mercury always does. It starts interfering with the brain. And she would wobble, lose her speech, learn walking was hard, and somebody said, go to the doctor, is there something wrong with you? And she did. And didn't take much. I mean, she went into a coma and she died. How deadly is this stuff? By that time, she became the number 4th person to die from it, because basically it was there for certain things, and they said, you know, we only become very cautious to something if somebody dies from it, get hurt, an accident. And wow, talk about accident safety. I went to school a long time ago in graduate class when I was taking organic chemistry, and the instructor, Dr. Brubaker, said, everybody buys a Merck index. Period. I want to see everybody with a Merck index. You have a little locker, stick it in the little locker. Everybody wears their own safety glasses. Yeah, you know, you had those funny looking plastic safety glasses. Everybody make sure everybody wears gloves in the lab. I want to see everybody wearing gloves, have a white coat on, etc., etc. A bonnet if you had to. Basically that thing. Prepare yourself, because what we have in here will kill you. Period. No ands, no ifs, no buts. It will kill you. And you take what you learn in organic chemistry, organic chemistry and that thing, and you apply that stuff when you go into the real world in businesses. In businesses, you're not dealing with micro liters or milliliters. You're dealing with, as someone says, well, actually, at that time, you can go out and buy a quart of something. A liter, yeah, a quart. Yeah, everything was shipped in quarts. Now it's microliters and everything else. Back then, it was dangerous. As someone says, you carry everything around in a bucket. Every bottle that you picked up out of the lab, you put it into a bucket. Period. I will not say you holding a bottle by itself, because we have acids here and we got toxins and what have you. Everything goes into a chemical bucket. Okay? And you learn that when you go into as analytical chemist, which I did when I joined a company. I said, well, I need to have, I was carrying acid around with me. I said, I need a chemical bucket. Where's my chemical bucket? Oh, well, no. I was taught to you bring safety into the lab. In that thing, you have really toxin stuff. Well, this woman died of this stuff, horribly, painfully. She went into a coma. She was dead. That woke up a lot of people, how dangerous a chemistry lab can be. Yes, and the regular lab, like as me, an analytical chemist, I had a lot of toxin stuff. Oh yeah. And you had to handle this stuff. And basically, you don't want to make a mistake in an industrial lab. When I was working in for a chemical company, I was moving barrels of chemicals. Yes, 55-gallon barrels of chemicals. Well, I shouldn't say 55-gallon barrels. They're stainless steel barrels. Big difference between a regular barrel and a stainless steel barrel. And it's really big stuff. I worked for UOP, and you went through a week of safety training. Consider what's on the property. You went through a week of safety training, and it was that thing. And I went with, what's his name? Tom. And we were transferring something in one of the cells. And one drop, using a pipette, one drop of this stuff hit the concrete floor, and you saw a cloud form. I don't know what we were using, pipetting back and forth. I don't know what that was, but we saw a cloud, that thing. He said, get the water. I got the little holes, and I spread it down with that thing. That went into a sump. And then it was transferred to a holding tank, and then it could be neutralized. Yeah, it's like, you remember things like that. Oh, yes, you remember things like that. And then, of course, you have to write up a hazardous report on it, and we have to sign off of it, and the manager had to sign off of it, and then it went up the line and said, well, there's just one drop hit the floor, and that thing. And it's dangerous. And you're talking moving 55-gallon drums, or basically stainless steel drums around, and everything is you really watch yourself. And I might say, it's not for little people to move. Oh yeah, yes, young lady, you want to come in here? Well, move that 550-pound item over there. She can't do it. That's right. Oh well. I have to be in the lab. And it's really dangerous being in a lab. Yes, it is. It's very dangerous. You really have to watch yourself. The old saying, you always wear safety glasses. You always, to my case, you wore safety shoes. It's dangerous. Analytical chemistry stuff, you're exposed to a lot of stuff there's a lot of stuff that's sitting on shelves. And a lot of stuff is not sitting on shelves. A lot of stuff is sitting outside of the building in chemical storage rooms. Why? Because toxicity of the stuff. They're sitting in buckets and that thing. I was handling ethyl ether. What's ethyl ether? You don't want to know. I was using ethyl ether, and you open the bottle or you open the can, and you really, every time you open that bottle, it could be your last. It's like, really? How dangerous ethyl ether is. Yeah, ether oxides on it. You go like that, and you go boom. And the lab was ethyl ether lab. How dangerous is this? Well, we give a crash course to a temporary coming into the lab and telling, do this, do this, do this, wear these gloves, wear this face mask, wear this stuff and that thing, and be very careful what you're doing, because what you're handling will burn through your gloves. Concentrated sulfuric acid, concentrated nitric acid. One of the procedures we had, and then it was changed. But then they went from sulfuric acid to hydrochloric acid. Like, okay. Then other jobs, you handle acids. You handle chemicals. Really, the old saying that graduate chemistry, you really are over safety. I worked in a lab handling nitric acid. Everything was in a bucket. I wouldn't touch it unless it was carried in a bucket. I didn't move it unless it was carried in a bucket. You better know it. The last thing I want to do is spill something on me. But chemistry is extremely dangerous. You have your high school chemistry. Well, they're not going to really do too much. And then you got your college chemistry, undergraduate chemistry. Yeah. But as soon as you become a graduate chemist, it can get lethal if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't have any kind of a training background in chemistry. It can be extremely lethal. And like Karen, nobody knew how dangerous this stuff was, because there was some recorded of deaths in the past on this. I think Karen was the fourth one over years that actually died from it. Now, other mercury compounds, methylene mercury, people get sick from it, right, mishandling it or making mistakes. But they didn't die. It's the dimethylmercury was the killer. Oh. And her legacy, her mistake, her death resonated all through universities. Oh my God, you lost one of their thing. And anybody who had that one on the shelf, it was immediately said, we start labeling all our poisons, toxins, and that stuff. And but in industry, a lot of that stuff is not kept in a lab because it's so dangerous. A lot of flammable stuff is not kept in the lab. I kept ethyl ether in my lab, a can of it, because I used it. And then every morning, if I needed more, or when I needed more, I went out and got another can or bottle of something, and I brought it back into the lab, into the bucket, and then I used it. And you really don't want to have that stuff sitting around. Well, my lab was locked. So what do you mean it's locked? It is locked. I get the key to go in. I get the key when I work at UOP. My lab was locked. Nobody walked into that lab because of, the stuff I was using, okay. Nobody walked in the lab. It was one of those, like a big industrial chemical place, labs are locked. There are no open doors or anything. You carry the key around your neck. You open that door, you close that door. Or you have a card and you sweep the card to get in that lab. No one walks into a lab without a card on it because it's dangerous. Industrial are dangerous. It's like working at a big chemical plant, gasoline, BP. It can be dangerous. You got to remember is that they go through more than a week of training of these big things, because you expect everybody that walks through that gate is to have a chemistry background or chemical engineering background. Yeah, it's a it's not for the faint of heart. And when you bring in temporaries, I was working as a place when I was a temporary there. As I said, you have a week of training before you do that thing, and you know exactly what you have. You have all the literature on everything you handle, and what can go wrong. And if something goes wrong in that thing, you write a report up. 2 people write a report up, and a third one signs off of it. As they said, drop one drop on the ground on the concrete, and you got this little brown cloud growing. Did other things go wrong? Well, not really. I mean, I worked in a bottling plant where somebody spilled liquid chlorine on the concrete, and it has the same effect. It has a reaction, and you get these little fumes, and you have to wash it down with water, and you blow the fumes out of the thing, out of the building, and then you write up the report on it. Hey, it's a very, very dangerous working in companies. To have an office job somewhere where you're not exposed to the stuff. Well, or you go to Ukraine if you really want to see what damage is. The Russians are bombing chemical plants. Really? Wow, talk about chemical warfare. And everything that's in that plant, it either burns or become corrosive, will poison the water systems. Yeah, well, Putin's a psychopath, so. Oh, then we have another. Sorry. I think I'll stay off of politics, but yeah, it's kind of like we live in a dangerous world. It's like when we when we had leaded gasoline, but people didn't live very long. But now they, the old saying, you spill something in a lab, you write it up. Why you write it up? Because if you don't write it up, you can get fired. Yeah, they will fire you. Yeah. I remember a doctor in a lab who spilled something and he didn't write it up, and video cameras in the lab saw him spill something up. Okay, then he cleaned it up. He didn't tell anybody, but the cameras are back there. Bye. So, as I said, working in a chemistry lab is hazardous to your health. Yes, you run into the pure form of something. In high school, you may get the diluted form of something. But in graduate school, undergrad, and college, you're not going to run into that. Graduate in college, I don't know what it is now, but back there, you had to buy all your own stuff. I have a chemistry glassware that was required to buy my own little itty Corning's glassware. I was required to buy it. It's your own kit. You buy your own kit, you use your own kit, and do all that stuff. Right. That is yours. That is when you do experiments. Because the school didn't have money for glassware, so if you're a chemist taking an organic chemistry or inorganic chemistry, you bought your own kit. You bought your own Merck index. You bought your own, just like any other textbook you have. But one of the things about what I would tell about graduate school is that a lot of books are not written at that time. We got a new machine in, what was it, gas chromatography machine from HP. There was no book books on that. They brought in an instructor and saying how to do anything, but there was no books on it, no textbooks. So that was one of the professors said, I'm going to be writing the textbook. You guys can do the experiments. Okay. By the way, everybody has an A. Yeah, everybody passed the course, but he was running the textbooks on the gas chromatography. Oh, hey, what am I going to do? Oh, well, I'm sorry the poor Karen died. Oh, by the way, you know the Pope in Rome? Yeah, he's a chemist. Yeah, doesn't mean much. Yeah. And if he ever shows in Chicago, I give him a T-shirt. Oh, well.